Oh boy, this may piss a lot of people off, but somewhere along the line, we started equating complexity with quality. More buttons, more mechanics, more systems layered on top of each other, as if depth can only exist behind a complicated control scheme. If a game doesn't require a controller tutorial or a dozen keybinds, it's often dismissed as simple, casual, or worse, not a real game. But the truth is, complex controls don't automatically make games better. In fact, some of the most impactful, emotionally resonant, and mechanically brilliant games ever made are built on simplicity. Today, I want to talk about why we've mistaken complexity for depth and how more buttons doesn't equal better games. Before I get into my main points, I want to talk about how common the mindset really is, and I'm not exempt from it either. Whenever you think of video games at the most basic level, you could separate them into 4 categories: gameplay, story, graphics, and controls. Gameplay is what you actually do, story is the experience that ties everything together, graphics are how the world is presented, and controls are the bridge between you and the screen, the way you feel the game. I think we can all agree that the most important one is unquestionably gameplay. As quoted by Reggie, I can't wait to drop off the Sorry, wrong one. If the game isn't fun, why bother? When looking at components holistically, both story and graphics either rely or are influenced by gameplay. Sure, the gameplay has to fit these components somehow, but I would argue the gameplay is the driving force. And that leaves controls, which these categories go hand in hand with each other. The controls directly influence what you do, and the gameplay is the blueprint for how the control scheme is made. Okay, so since we have established this connection, we must ask ourselves what this means. What separates video games from different media is the interaction, which is via controls. Using this logic, the more control you have in the game to do more things that impact the gameplay and story, the increased likelihood of you having fun and enjoying the game. Now, we run into the crew of the matter, and it's a statement that I think we should all know. Quantity is less than quality. Something that you were likely told when you were growing up, but in the realm of video games, it's an interesting topic. Looking back into the 4 components discussed earlier, when you isolate them with this statement, something interesting happens. If a game has simple gameplay, graphics, or story, people like it. It's fine. But simple controls? Well, that's not a video game. I've seen so many people dismiss games based on what you physically do, even when they offer incredible stories, striking visuals, or deeply engaging systems built around just 1 or 2 inputs. And that contradiction is exactly what I want to talk about, and the game that ignited this fire was Disco Elysium is an RPG mixed with some visual novel elements that heavily relies on interactions with its dialogue and RPG elements. The premise of the game is simple. You are well, you really don't know who you are, but you are well, you don't really know that either, but you can tell you can have a good time. You are dropped into this little motel room trying to solve a murder. You can go around talking to people, completing tasks, and possibly getting into narcotics if that floats your boat. You move around with 1 button, highlight stuff you can interact with another, and you can press 1 to open the menu that holds items, quests, etc. Some of these of course overlap, and you can map the controls to be separate buttons, but the game can easily function with as little as 3 buttons, and on PC, it's 2. That's it in terms of controls. So how do you have fun with this game? You don't have insane combos of buttons to remember that are immensely satisfying to do when you do it yourself, nor have buttons that actions your character to truly connect you to them in life or death situations. But what you do have is one of the most thrilling and engaging experiences in all of gaming, that achieves it with, yes, 3 buttons. The simple whodunit murder mystery is the foundation, and it works. You have 10 days in game to solve a complex mystery, which is especially daunting since you start on the back foot. Or your underwear to be more accurate. The theme of not really knowing what will happen unless you try something is easily my favorite part of the game. I have always liked games that allow you to try random things or are structured in a way that pushes you towards what you're supposed to do, but will never definitely say how. And the game has consequences, real consequences that truly matter, that gives these choices real weight to truly immerse you with this character. It helps as well that the game gives you insane customization with your character and dialogue to give you as much freedom as possible. You can truly tackle this journey in any way you like. You could be doing the main case, or investigating a haunted bookstore, finding your right shoe, whatever the game throws at you. The setting of the fictional district of Martinez that is heavily inspired by post-war Europe is so interesting to explore. This on top of a wide range of characters to interact with that you have no idea if they will be useful or not. The writing is so damn good, and the dialogue choices are so interesting and unique that you really can't help but interacting with everything around you. I can't even tell you how many times I've laughed or or been equally shocked by the dialogue choices. I mean, the third character you meet is a teenager throwing rocks at the dead body, mind you, that has been up there for 7 days decomposing, who is high and refers to himself in the third person. And if you play your cards right, he could become your dealer. Like, come on! The game is definitely on the buddy cop flick side, with the main character other than you is Kim Kitsurage, a noble detective sent by another police station to aid in your investigation. He acts as your stabilizer, for lack of a better term, because, well, look at him. You could be best buds or complete opposites, but this, on top of all the possibilities, is truly a sight to behold. In terms of RPG elements, there are 24 attributes to choose from that are separated into 4 categories of intellect, psych, physique, and motorics. Some, of course, are obvious in terms of what you think they do, but some you think that there's no way that they would be useful. Until they are. These traits are the framework with how you tackle the journey. However, these amounts aren't static, because you get XP throughout the game by completing tasks or discovering certain pieces of information that you can level up certain attributes individually. Also, wearing different clothes influences this as well. There's also the thought cabinet, where depending on the actions and dialogue choices you pick throughout the game will possibly reward you with unique buffs. It is insane the depth of these systems that mesh so wonderfully. But you may be asking how it affects the gameplay. Well, throughout the game, many dialogue choices are locked behind a skill check, which has a numerical requirement for passing. The score is calculated by rolling 2 dice plus how many skill points you have in said attributes. Some skill checks are harder than others, and some can be done multiple times or only done once. Many important details are locked behind these, so it's a strategy in where you want to put your points into. However, more often than not, you really don't know until you get it. So it's a really important trade-off of what you want to do throughout your journey and how you want to structure your character. But I understand that this game isn't for everyone. We all don't have the time to have multiple playthroughs to experience everything, and that can be viewed as a downside. It doesn't help that there is so much here that it's actually overwhelming. People working 9 to 5 don't have time, and they may want to sit back, relax, and play a game that is so simple that it's just plain fun. Balatro in this context is pretty much the polar opposite of Disco Elysium. No story, no characters, just poker. Get those hands with cool modifiers and let the mind relax. The dopamine is rising as you hear the points tally, and the flames of beating the score in one round is cathartic. If you fail, you can do it again because it's a roguelike, and a good one at that. The inherent nature of the genre makes customization almost a necessity for making people keep playing, and Balatro easily does this. All the buttons in this game are really point and click, so theoretically, we have one button. It's crazy because it follows a very similar structure that Disco Elysium has, and that is having the gameplay systems unequivocally support the main goal of the game. In the case of Balatro, it's to get as many points as possible. The harder the hand you get, the more points you accrue, and you have to beat the limit that is on your screen to progress in a certain amount of hands. You have a shop that offers a various means of getting more points, the patented 151 Joker cards that make certain cards, suits, or scenarios more enticing, planet cards directly upgrade the hand you can achieve, additions can give either Joker cards or playing cards a direct buff, and much more. All these systems are feeding into this simple directive to create a one-of-a-kind experience you keep playing. There really isn't much more I can say when it comes to this game, and that's the point. Balatro doesn't need more. Both Disco Elysium and Balatro don't need complex controls. Both are extremely effective when it comes to being fun, which is all that matters. However, these games point out that contradiction, or rather perspective, at the beginning. Sure, if the premises of these games aren't your forte, then there really isn't anything wrong with that, but these games are incredible, and it's a shame that people won't give it a shot because you physically don't do that much compared to your Call of Duties or your 2Ks in the world. A video game's value doesn't always come from the friction between the controls and what's on your screen. The game by itself can easily carry that experience, but you might ask then what separates it from other media? It really doesn't. We consume all media to pass the time or to be entertained. Just because one media type does something differently doesn't mean that it automatically has to stay within its own bubble. I get it though. Video games are unique in the sense that each one has to be bought most of the time. So you'd automatically think that you want to play a game that engages you the most, which the easiest way to do so is having controls that do the heavy lifting. But I believe that video games' ability to not have to follow this blueprint makes it great. Video game developers hindering themselves in this aspect forces them to make creative decisions to make up for it. If done correctly, you get some of the most mind-bending, simple fun, or something in between experiences that just doesn't work with complex buttons. There is a world that both control schemes exist, and that is just the coolest thing. At the end of the day, playing video games should be first and foremost about fun. Just please remember that it doesn't always have to come from you interacting with it. It can just be you sitting on your couch, eyes glued to the screen, letting the video game developers do the heavy lifting and making what's on your screen the craziest stuff you've ever seen. And for you to realize it, you just need to remember that more buttons doesn't equal better games.